Hey, witches!
Hi, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Folklore.
I'm gonna apologize in advance again because the last episode I apologized in advance for my voice isn't gonna air till after this one. um, so I am having some illness, but you're just gonna have to deal with it. So, folklore, we are still in the Norse Pantheon, although I feel we are reaching the end because
Yeah.
there's so much unknown about the Norse Pantheon. Um,
Yeah, and I think part of it is just because where it would I don't want to say because where it's located, but I can hear my alarm going off. Um I I think it's because a lot of their culture was either not necessarily I think they were more like verbal, like
yeah,
oral um kind of orators. And then I also think that most of their culture or like religion was destroyed.
yeah, for sure, absolutely, for sure.
Hmm.
Um, so I think really the last bigger or more well known god we have to talk about is Heimdall. And that's what I'm going to start with today. And then we're going to talk about some of the lesser known gods. Um, Not that they were lesser gods, because some of them are actually like it could almost be argued that they were stronger than Odin, like kind of vibes. But anyway, Heimdall. I researching Heimdall like really threw me off because before I researched him, my only knowledge was from the Thor movies, which
The
obviously,
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
yeah, and obviously I should have known, right, that this is a Scandinavian religion. Like they're not gonna be black. But I feel like the Heimdall in the movies was so good that that's just all I could picture. But the funny and ironic thing about that is that Heimdall was called the Watchman of the Gods, and he was also called the Shining God because he had the whitest skin of all the gods. So he was called the Shining God. So I thought that was kind of ironic. But anyway, he not only is the Watchman of the God, but he's also the god of foresight, keen eyesight, and hearing. So he knows what's coming. Like he's going to be able to figure out what's going on. He lives at the entrance to Asgard, at the end of the Bifrost, which is the Rainbow Bridge, and he guards it. He doesn't need, he needs less sleep than a bird. So, like, he's the perfect watchman because he never has to sleep. He can see 100 leagues and could hear grass growing in the meadows and wool growing on the sheep. So, like, when we say he has sharp senses, I don't mean like a normal person sharp senses. He's a fucking god. But he's also like a warrior.
Hmm.
So he's a swordsman, and he had the sword Hofid, which was said to be so sharp that it could cut through anything. And that's going to come back later in one of the stories about Heimdall. Um, and he was also said to be the son of 9 mothers who were all daughters of the sea god Aegir. So, interesting family tree there. Um, Heimdall being the like watchman of the gods or whatever, kept, and I'm gonna butcher this name, so help me out. Gjallarhorn,
Yes.
Gjallarhorn, which is the horn that he sounds to summon all the gods for Ragnarok, which I will get back to. Heimdall wandered Earth, so like the human realm in disguise, and he would call himself Rig. And this is Heimdall was said to have created the classes among the humans. So there are three
Bitch.
specific. Right, right. Fucking Heimdall. It's all his fault. Um, he established three classes by visiting three couples. And when I say visiting them, I mean like in bed. Okay, straight up joins them in bed. um,
That's amazing.
the first couple, they live in a hut. They're ugly. The man was called A. The wife was called Edda. It says he slept between the man and the wife and left in the morning. But 9 months later, Edda had a child. They called him Thrall, which meant slave. Um, and he met a woman named Thur, which also means slave. And they got married and they lived a hard life of physical labor. They had 21 children, 12 boys and 9 girls. They all had ugly names and became the class of slaves. So that's the slave class. It's just ugly and
That's
gross and dirty and hard work.
that's fucked up.
Like fucking Heimdall. Like, what the fuck? The freeman class, um, was they were dressed nicely. They lived in a well kept home. He slept between the man and the wife, and 9 months later, the wife gave birth to a boy they named Carl, meaning free man. Um, he
Carl.
raised Carl. He
Carl.
he raised that kills people, Carl. Oh my gosh, YouTube, the obscure YouTube we used to watch. Please tell me you got that reference.
I did.
Okay,
I
good.
I
Good.
just have a doggy right here.
Hi, dog. Is that Scarlet?
I just got a baby scar.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, Carl, um,
Carl.
he raises oxen and he plows the fields. Um, he meets a woman named Snjord, which means daughter-in-law. Um, and they get married, and she's wearing a goatskin gown. They have 22 children, 12 boys and 10 girls. They have good names, and they form the basis for those living free in society, the working class. So they are the working class. Then,
Can I help you?
the final one, the third couple lives in a mansion. They treat
I
Rig
want to
with,
be them.
right? They treat him with hospitality. They feed him great food. He sleeps in between the man and the wife, and 9 months later, she gives birth to a boy named Jarl, which means
Jarl.
Earl.
It's Jarl.
Jarl,
It's
Jarl. Okay,
Jarl.
Jarl, which
It's
means
Earl.
Earl. Yeah,
That means
he was
king.
healthy and fierce. He learned to use weapons. He hunted. Um, Rig, which a reminder is Heimdall, comes back and claims Jarl as his heir. He teaches him runes and urges him to become a ruler. He ends up marrying Erna, who bore 12 sons and no daughters because, the line of succession is the only important thing for a woman's there for in this time. Um, the youngest son was the most skilled of these siblings, and his name was Koner Unger or King.
Koner Unger.
Yep.
I don't know. I just went with it.
Um, there are consequences to this class system that Heimdall has created, obviously. Is that
We'll have to
Polly or
go get.
Scar?
That's Polly. We'll have to go get groceries.
She said, Dad!
Where's my dad?
Um, but because Connor was the youngest son, Heimdall's blessing was different than the royalty established in other parts of Europe because typically they choose the firstborn to be like the chosen one or whatever. Um, and Heimdall's involvement may also have had the effect of keeping those three social classes in Viking society like so cemented because they were established by a god, which it's gross, but whatever. Um, Similar to how Odin gave up his eye to better himself, Heimdall is said to have given a body part to better himself. The protector of the Bifrost sacrificed one of his ears to the well beneath the world tree Yggdrasil to gain more superhuman senses. According to this myth, the Heimdall's ear was kept below the roots of the sacred tree, and water from Odin's sacrificed eye would stream onto Heimdall's ear. And so he got better senses from this. I don't know.
What is it with everybody losing a limb in this? Because one of
Oh
my
my
guys
fucking
lost a limb
god.
too.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Maybe because it was like cold there, so
Girl.
like maybe they did lose body parts to like frostbite. I don't know. Like in the winter, so I don't know. Um, Heimdall and Loki. In I'm gonna pronounce this so wrong, but Hustrapa, the poem. Um, Heimdall and Loki are fighting over a missing necklace. The necklace is Brisingamen, which belonged to Freya. She turned to Heimdall for help because Loki stole her necklace. They eventually find it and Loki has it, but he is like, I'm gonna turn into a fucking seal. So Heimdall's like, heard bitch, I'm gonna turn into a fucking seal too. Um and then they fight as seals, you know? It's
Can
fine.
you just imagine?
like, like no, I cannot. Um so and then it doesn't ever say. I'm guessing he got the necklace back and gave it back to Freya, but that wasn't part of the
Yeah, because when
story.
I did the Freya story, she got the necklace back.
Okay, yeah. The important part here was that they were both seals and slapping each other around. Um, in this poem, oh, I guess I did. Hold on, I kept going. I wasn't done. In the poem, Loki is like, oh no, this is a different story entirely. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's still Loki and Heimdall though. He is engaged in a basically a roast. um, because it says he's engaged in a contest of insults known as a flighting at a feast where many of the Norse gods are present. It's basically a roast. So,
Listen, in the game, the God of War,
uh,
Valhalla, like that, the Norse versions of it, flighting, fucking sucks.
great.
Fucking hate it. Actually, I hate flighting in any game. It's fucking
Awesome.
annoying. Go ahead.
Well,
Sorry.
noted. Noted.
It's just rhyming. It's literally just like rapping. That's all it is.
Oh. Mm.
It's just like one you think would be funnier, and then they're like, nah, no, that's lame. And you're like, it's funny. And then you have to go back and choose like the lame one, and then you're like,
That's
that's not
annoying.
funny at all. Yeah. Stupid. But I'm an achievement whore, so I had to do it to get the achievement. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. So throughout this whole feast, Loki is roasting someone or everyone, sounds like. Heimdall gets annoyed and he's like, stop being such a drunk. Why won't you stop speaking? And Loki gets pissed off and he says, um, he tells Heimdall to stop speaking and that Heimdall is fated to have a hateful life. And he wishes for the guardian of Asgard, Heimdall, to always have a muddy back or a stiff back, depending on the translation, whichever one you choose. Stiff back makes more sense to me. Um, Ragnarok. Heimdall kind of sets off Ragnarok, right? Like, so it begins, Heimdall, or blah, 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 Ragnarok begins with Heimdall sounding the horn, Gjallarhorn. Um, and from that sound, there's a crack created in the sky dome, and fire giants emerge from said crack, led by Surt. They storm the Bifrost, destroying it, and then, Heimdall's like blowing the horn, like, hey, y'all, they're here. Um, so then the Aesir hear the horn. They know that the Jotun are coming. Um, and not we already know this, but like Loki joins um the Jotun and a lot of mythical beasts. It says various mythical beasts join them as well. I feel like those are probably Loki's children. Like he has a lot of
No,
fucking
all
children
of
that are
them.
just random beasts. So I feel like a lot of them are probably Loki's children. Um, the Aesir gods go to
Every
battle
single
with the
one of them.
giants. Right, honestly. Um, and Heimdall. mm, So Heimdall and Loki are the end of each other. They die at each other's hands. Um,
They dyed each other's hands?
they die at each other's hands.
Oh, I thought you said they dyed each other's hands, and then I was like, did
No,
they
no, no, no.
tie each other's hands? Okay, got it.
No, no, no. They die at each other's hands. So they kill each other. And after Heimdall falls, the world burns and sinks into the ocean. So, like, pretty fucking dramatic ending. Going out in a burst of flames. It's how I would like to go as well. So, that is Heimdall. So then
Listen,
I'm going to
the
let
world's
Emily
not
talk for a minute,
fucking
and then I'm going
burning.
to talk again. We're
Listen,
just
if
going to take
the
turns.
world's not fucking burning. Did you even do it right?
Right. Well, the world is already on fire, so like,
Right, true. Okay. Well, I guess you're right though. Okay. Um hold on. Gotta pop the stress away. Pop, lock, and drop it. Drop it. Okay, so I'm gonna be talking about Tyr. I also have two other gods. I was gonna talk about like one other one. Sorry, I have how do I pronounce this
uh,
thing, and it started playing. Um, by the way, if anyone ever wants to learn how to like kind of hear how the Germanic Norse area would have pronounced some of their like words or their runes. There's a guy on YouTube who actually has degrees in this
uh,
because like he starts off his videos like some of you might be wondering how I know this. Well, it's because I have these degrees. I have this, I have this, I have this kind of thing. So like he prefaces his everything first before he gets into it.
he's like, this is
Um
why you should listen to me.
yeah. So he actually has like a video on the runes and how to pronounce them. Which
Nice.
Tyr has his own rune, which actually I'm wearing it's basically like the arrow. It's like the
Huh.
T is what some people um, pronounce it as, but or not pronounce it as, but sees it as. But so I'm going to be talking about Tyr. So he is the one-armed god of the Norse Pantheon. So he was a member of the Aesir tribe who presented or represented. Of course, the moment I start speaking is the moment I start like getting like hiccuping and needing to burp. Um, he was a member of the Aesir tribe who represented war and bloodshed. Um, he is also known as the bringer of justice and order. So he was very contradictory. He was he was more along the lines of like peace through war rather than like the god of war from like Greek times who would just like bloodshed bloodshed bloodshed.
Yeah.
um Tyr was like, I want to do this as peacefully as we can. This is war, but I want to do it as peacefully as possible kind of thing. So like that's kind of how he was. He would do it for justice and for order rather than just because he wanted to go fight. um there's also a lack of information, so this could completely be skewed. This could be very different. Um, but that's also what we struggle with, unfortunately, with a lot of the Norse information, just because of
Yes.
either cultural reasons for like lack of documentation, or because of destroying of history.
Records. Yeah.
Um, but he's not mentioned a lot in the poetic eddas or the prose eddas. Um, it but those works are basically the backbone of Norse mythology. So like he's not even really mentioned in it or mentioned much. But he was best known for wrestling the monstrous hound Fenrir, and that's how he lost his arm in the process.
Which was one of Loki's
So
children, right?
yeah.
Fenrir is one of Loki's children. Yeah.
Hmm. So Tyr actually originated as a Germanic deity during the early centuries of the Common Era, while he was a powerful figure in Germanic religion by the Viking era, which was around 800, 1100s Common Era. His importance had waned. His former prominence among the Germanic peoples and the Norse, however, was attested by the use of his name for the letter T of the runic alphabet, as well as for the word Tuesday, which actually meant Tyr's Day. So Tuesday comes from the Norse.
I think
Um,
most of them do, don't they? Because Wednesday
Freya
is
or
Odin's
Frigg
day.
is like Frigga's day, so Friday.
Friday
Odin,
is Wednesday,
and
right?
then Thor is supposed to be Thor's
Thursday.
day. Saturday is technically like a Saturnalia kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Um, so his rune is like it's the T essentially. It's like the arrow that points up. It's Teoaz is how you pronounce it. Um, Surprisingly, I thought it was going to be a lot harder than that, but no, it's Teoaz. Um, but so anytime you see that rune, that's Tyr's rune. So, which is really cool too, because like in God of War, um, Ragnarok, and like in the New Age God of War, anytime you are traveling anywhere in the world and you see Teoaz, like it's it's something like Tyr put that there, and like that's supposed to signify something that you have to do for Tyr or with Tyr later on in the game, and it's like it's actually, now that I'm like learning about it, that's actually pretty cool.
That is cool.
The name Tyr actually means a god or even the god. It stemmed from the Proto-Indo-European Dionysus by the way of the Proto-Germanic Tiawaz. So Tiawaz actually means god or deity. It's actually kind of the same root used in the names of Zeus, who again is the Greek god, the king of the Greek gods, uh, or Jupiter, who is king of the Roman gods. Same person. Um, because this word was reserved for the most powerful of deities, scholars have speculated that Tyr once held such a position. By the time the first Norse epics were recorded, however, Tyr's importance had declined significantly. So it was speculated that he could have been the greatest of them all. He was very, very powerful. Um, he was more than just a brave warrior, though. He was also a reliable source of wisdom and, again, a champion of justice. He was Sailor Moon. Um, these descriptions relied on belief mentions of the god in the Norse epics, not necessarily concrete evidence. The most detailed description of the god was derived from Gylfaginning, a book of the Prose Edda. So by the 13th century, Icelandic scholar Snorri Sturluson had wrote this. Um, it read, "Yet remains that one of the Aesir who is called Tyr. He is most daring and best in stoutness of heart, and he has much authority over victory in battle. It is um, good for men of valor to invoke him. It is the proverb that he is Tyr valiant, who surpasses other men and does not waver. he is wise, so that it is also said that he is that is wisest is Tyr prudent. That was
A
what?
mouthful.
Yeah. Um so okay, whatever. Uh so he's most like when people see him, they see him without his right hand or arm. He's depicted as having lost both or one or the other. Um, it's either at the wrist or the forearm. It's pretty close. It's kind of hard to determine. It was devoured by Fenrir, the ravenous giant wolf sired by Loki, and the Jotun Angerboda. Fenrir would later play a central role in Ragnarok. But during this time, it was actually when they had chained him. I believe it was in Helheim. I don't have that popped up here. Oh, yeah, I do. Never mind. Scratch what I said. Um, oh my god, what happened? Okay. Dang, that was fucking fast. I literally just popped in that Will was at Walmart and like what number he was in, and then all of a sudden it popped up saying thanks for shopping with us. What? You didn't have to wait? Okay, so in terms of his parents, it's kind of speculated who was who. So Tyr was either the son of Odin, the king of the gods, or Hymir, a giant from the obscure section of the Poetic Edda called, oh, no, Lay of Hymir. So the later text omitted mention of Tyr's mother. It identified his grandmother as a woman with 900 heads. So most people just assume that his father is actually Odin,
Hmm.
because of the fact that he was considered Aesir. Most scholars, what is it? So, because most scholars believe that Odin was his father, that would mean that Balder, Heimdall, Thor, Vali, Vidar, Bragi, and Hoder were his siblings or his brothers. There are not quite a few, but a couple of stories in terms of Tyr. I'm only going to talk about the Fenrir story just because the missing of the hand is so prevalent in like his character that's I feel like most important.
Right.
So this was actually briefly encountered in the Gylfaginning. It was emphasized for Tyr's bravery as well as his willingness to sacrifice for justice, which brings back to that character-esque that he has. Fenrir grew up in Asgard and lived among the gods, though only Tyr was brave enough to approach him. Knowing that Fenrir would play a critical role in Ragnarok, the gods played a game, quote unquote, in which they would try to ensnare him. Fenrir always won, however, and broke his bonds each time. Seeking something that would confine Fenrir for good, the gods commissioned the crafty dwarves of Svartalfheim to construct a durable set of fetters, which they lovingly called Gleipnir. With Gleipnir in hand, the gods sought to trap the beast once more. The presented Gleipnir to Fenrir and challenged him to one final game. When Fenrir saw how thin the bonds were, he grew suspicious, claiming that the gods were trying to deceive him. He only consented to the game after Tyr. My thing just reset itself. That's fucked up. Um, he only consented to the game after Tyr agreed to place an arm in his mouth. With this makeshift insurance policy in place, Fenrir allowed the gods to bind him. The great wolf struggled against his bonds and for the first time found that he could not break them. Realizing that the gods did not intend to release him, Fenrir bit down on Tyr's hand. The text also revealed Tyr's fate during Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. When the final battle between gods and Jotun commenced, Tyr would both slay and be slain by the wolf Garmir, then slay the dog Garmir, be loosed, Then shall the dog Garmir be loosed, which is bound before Gnipna's cave. He is the greatest monster. He shall do battle with Tyr, and each become the other's slayer. Um, so Tyr is involved in some pop culture, not a lot though. Um, there is a metal band that explores Norse myths and themes in their music, and they actually have quite a bit about Tyr in their music. Um, his greatest legacy, though, is Tuesday, and that's basically endured for centuries. And that's unfortunately really all about there is about Tyr, even though
No,
he did
that's
quite a bit for, not quite a bit, but I mean, like, if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have been able to stop him from, or convince Fenrir.
yeah.
So
There's not a lot about Forsetti either. Um, he is the god of justice, associated with truth and peace. He is the son of Balder and his wife Nana. Nana. Um,
probably Nana. I don't know.
um,
I feel like they don't do like I feel like I don't know. I don't feel like they have the ah or the A's. I don't think they have the
the
A's. I feel like they have the ah. Ah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, oh my gosh. Okay, sorry, I just lost my like train of thought. So I don't very often read like direct quotes from the poems, but this one I did put in here. So from the 15th stanza of Grimnismal, which is one of the poems in the Poetic Edda, um, it is said that Forsetti's dwelling place, Glitnir, is a resplendent hall made of gold and silver, and that he settles disputes. This is the direct quote. He thus seems to be the divine equivalent of and model for the human law speaker, which they also put the translation here. I'm not even going to try to say it. The ceremonial head of the being and the being. What is the symbol that looks like a bee but that keeps going down?
That looks like a B but keeps going
Like a
down.
lowercase b, but it keeps going down.
Like the rune.
Yeah.
Uh Sorry, I'm going through them. Can you mark it or draw it or something?
It
Looks like a
is
B.
Thorisas. This one.
Oh, a P. Hold on, that
Um,
one was pretty early on in this. It's what is it?
he's the head of that.
Thorisaz.
Thorisas.
Thorisaz.
He's the head of
Thorisaz.
that. Whatever that
Okay.
is. Which, well, it's the Scandinavian Legal Assembly, is what it is. The law speaker often acts as a judge who decides outcome of disputes in accordance with the law. And actually, the modern Icelandic president is referred to as Forsetti. Not like all the time, but like that is one way they refer to them. Okay, stories. So, um, his story actually starts with some like real people in history. So Charlemagne was conquering most of Northern Europe at the time, and he was trying to convert these people to Christianity, um, which he didn't do a terrible job at. He got a lot of people, but not everybody. What the hell just happened?
You're good. I
Okay,
think
you
it
could still
just
hear me and everything. Okay,
yeah, I think it just blitzed for a second.
okay. Um, So he's trying to convert people to Christianity. Um, and he is trying to get these, so he appoints 12 representatives of the Frisian people, because he wants written laws there. But um turns out not a lot of their stuff is easy to convert to written form. um so long story short, they couldn't do it. They couldn't create the laws that he wanted in written form. So he gave them three options. They could die, they could become a slave, or they could be set adrift in a rudderless boat. Yeah, great choices. Um, so all of them chose the last option. Um, and while they're on this boat, all of a sudden, a 13th man, remember there were only 12 of them, a 13th man appears on the boat with them. And they're like, who the fuck are you?
Where did you fucking come from, bro?
Right, like, what the fuck? In his hand, he has a golden axe. Um, and he uses it to steer the boat to land. And then he, from the boat, throws the axe onto the shore, which creates a freshwater spring for them to like live. Then he teaches them the laws that they were able to um, like give to the person. um, and then once they like learned them, he just disappeared. So this was Forsetti, or at least is believed to be Forsetti. Um, and that island, is now called Fosseides Land. Um, and it actually became like a big site for like sacrifices and baptisms and things like that. Um, but those are the only mentions of Forsetti in any of the poems or history. So he's still got a legend, or a not a legend, but like kind of, in that they refer to the modern Icelandic president as Forsetti, and then there's the island Forseides Land. But other than that, there's not a lot known about Forsetti.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Um, next is
Next.
Njord and his wife, because I didn't have a lot on Njord and I really wanted to talk about Njord's wife.
I like it.
But that's a secret for later.
Okay.
I'm not gonna keep calling her Njord's wife because she has her own name, but
Well, I hope so.
no. Njord. So Njord is the Norse god of wind and waters. He is the patron of sailors and fishermen. He also brought wealth to the just and deserving. So he's like Robin Hood. He is also the patriarch of the Vanir deities. He is the father of the mythological father. We're not really sure everything else of Freyr and Freya. Now, if you remember from the previous, listen, I was doing research.
17 messages?
They're all in one photo thing, and they're research. They're podcast based. Leave me alone. I could have put a picture in there of shirtless Henry Cavill, but I didn't. Okay, they're all research based. But anyways, as you recall from the previous episode with Freyr and Freyr and Freya, they are married. They are also siblings and twins. And Njord is their father. But unlike most of the deities, Njord was fated to survive the cataclysmic destruction of Ragnarok and be reborn with the world, which is apparently very unheard of. He also was the one to lead his tribe against the Aesir gods during the Aesir Vanir War. And we all know how that happened. Freya got to be a wife to somebody not her brother. Um, Njord was actually a very popular god amongst the Norse, and seafarers specifically. Those who worshipped him did so in hopes of receiving bounty from the seas. In Norway, the center of Njord's ship, locals continued to offer him prayers well into the 18th century. And in um, Disney, prior to them rebranding the Norway attraction, which I loved as a kid, I was such a weird child because whenever we would go to Disney World and we would go to Epcot and we would do the countries, I would tell my parents, I want to do Norway. I want to do Norway. And my parents are like, why? It's not anything exciting. I was like, I don't care. I want to do Norway. I don't care. I want to do it. I want
You
to do
little
it. I loved
weirdo.
it. I have no idea why. I loved every bit of it. I remember there's like a scene after you like there's a part in the ride after you get you like go face to face with like a tree troll kind of thing and he like pushes you back and you like go down like a hill backwards and you like go out into like the ocean or something like that and it's kind of chilly. um the overhead voice or whatever is actually talking about like seafaring and they actually mention Njord's voice or not Njord's voice but they actually mention Njord and
Nice.
they're talking about like pay your toll to Njord or something like that. And I vividly remember that, and my parents never understood why I always had to go on it. Like you could just see the look in my parents' face when we were like in line, and I'm sitting there like, I can't wait to get on this ride. I'm like a fucking 7-year-old excited for a non Disney princess related ride, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And now it's Frozen, and it's still fun, but whatever. Anyways, so that was yeah. Anyways, fun little tidbit. Um, So the etymology of Njord actually remains unclear still. The theory suggests, though, that it was rooted from a Proto-Indo-European word meaning strong, vigorous, and healthy, which kind of makes sense considering his kids are like supposed to be, I guess, the gods of fertility in a way. So like I can see it. That kind of makes sense. And uh so yes, he is his name means strong, vigorous, and healthy. um Befitting his status as god of wind and waters and master of fishermen's fates, Njord lived by the sea. Um some scholars believe that Njord lived above the sea in a realm known as Noatun, or like the place of boats. It's described as at least once as being located in the heavens. It offered Njord an ideal perch from which to manage the elements and manipulate them to his liking. Um, but obviously speculated, believed. There's no like I don't want to say evidence, but there's no like stories written about this place or anything like that. Um, his family remains kind of I don't want to say shady, but it's cloudy. Like no one like knows what's going on. Um, no one even knows if he really had parents. He might have just been there and no one really cared. So like his existence might have been taken for granted. He did marry the Jotun Skadi, but their marriage was loveless. They were not happy. And they barely saw each other. While Njord fathered two children, fuck, Freya and Freyr, their mother was Njord's sister rather than Skadi. So Skadi was not their mother. Njord's sister was the mother. So incest on incest on incest.
You know, God
However,
things.
and it's so funny because the Aesir thought that was like heinous and disgusting.
Right.
And Vanir was like, no, it's normal.
It's fine.
Whatever.
And then there's the
Um,
Greeks.
they're like, what do you mean? This is my everyday life. This is what we do. This is how we do it. Um, and then, okay. So Njord is originally from Vanaheim. Um, do, 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 do. He ended up actually having a friendship um, with the Aesir after the Aesir Vanir War because of his daughter. Uh, um, and their like truce, I guess. So like Njord and his children became accepted and then actually admired by the Aesir. So like their that friendship started lasting peace amongst everyone. Um, so again, he actually married the Jotun Skadi. Um, Skadi's father, uh, the Yazi, was killed by Odin, Loki, Thor, and the other Aesir following the giant's abduction of Idun. So in Thor's story, well, hi. There's they take Idun, and Idun's apples is actually what gives them their immortality. And because of them not getting, I guess they're like growing not old, but like sick and like weary. Um, they have to do something, and so they go and kill the abductor for everything to return Idun. So Skadi is enraged by this. So she arms herself and makes for Asgard, intent on getting revenge on everybody who, hurt her and killed her father. So the gods offered her a reconciliation and atonement plan. Um, which kind of stopped her plans. So in exchange for her to end her, want for revenge and her need for revenge, she was promised a husband of her choosing. Um, but of course, as with Fae, gods alike, there's always a catch.
Of course.
Each mate was hidden behind a curtain, and the giant was asked to select her husband by examining their feet. Thinking she had located her top choice, Balder, Skadi mistakenly selected Njord, and the two were subsequently married. So neither of them were happy, um, because
That's really
Njord
unfortunate.
obviously, yeah, Skadi wanted to live in the mountains. I'll talk a little bit more about her, but she preferred the mountainous highlands in her father's home of Thermheimer, while Njord longed for the calm sea air of Noatun. They came to a compromise, so Njord consented to live for 9 days and nights in Thermheimer, and Skadi agreed to spend the next 3 nights in Noatun. So they would be on and off as whatever. So upon completing their stays, both gods complained bitterly of their spouses' living situations. Njord longed to have leave the hills behind, and then Skadi was tired of the sea. She wanted the mountains. So like neither of them were sleeping, neither of them were happy. So when their trial period ended, Skadi left to live for the mountains and the wolves. Live for the mountains and the wolves, where she hunted and hiked for the rest of her days. And Njord, meanwhile, remained in Noatun to keep watch over the seas and those who traveled them. The fuck? It was during this period of solitude that Njord sired children with his sister.
It's fine.
That's weird.
It's fine.
That's so weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyways, okay. So real quick about Skadi. Um, I really struggled finding anything about Oh, not Skadi. It's Skadi. Skadi. Hmm. It's a hard th. All right, go away, ad. Go away. Okay. So Skadi is the goddess in Jotun who is associated with bow hunting, skiing, winter, and mountains. She is also the goddess of judgment. She is a master huntress and weapon mastery of spear and bow. Um, she is most often seen with a bow in hand. Her ice dog,
Is it a
some
husky?
something like that. It's like a wolf. Um, my thing just like when you're on like a website because there's not enough to take notes on, so you're just gonna like read from it, and then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden it just like blanks
Jumps.
out and then pops back in.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Um, she's often seen with snowshoes on, which I think is so funny.
That's
Um,
awesome.
do-do-do-do-do. So yeah, so even when the ties with Njord went sour, she ended up keeping all of her good ties with everybody in Asgard still, which was kind of, I feel like that's rare for gods. Like once one thing goes sour, like you're sour with everybody. Although
Yeah.
that's mainly just like Greek mythology, so that's fine. Um, uh, she was married. She did marry Odin, which is really fucking weird. And she did have children with Odin, which is even more weirder. I'm like, why would she have why?
You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, right. Um but she still wanted Balder after all that time, which is so funny because she was so disappointed that she never got Balder when she picked Njord, but
Mm.
she just didn't she dealt with it. And she ended up having many children with Odin, according to some sources. And then when Loki insulted the gods because they were mourning Balder when he died because Loki killed Balder,
Hmm.
um, Skadi was like, "All right, let's go," and then basically helped everybody hunt him down. Um, so that was fun. But they don't have like they nobody knows about her fate in Ragnarok because that still remains a mystery. Um, some people believe that she was among surviving gods of Asgard, um, but nobody really truly knows about anything. Um, but yep, she is the goddess of winter, hunting, judgment, mountains. She's known as the shining bride of the gods. Um, she's got a wolf hybrid dog thing with her, seen at most times. But yeah,
All right.
that's really about all I got on her. Sorry.
Yeah, it's hard with some of the lesser known ones. Like there's not a lot known about them, so it's hard to find much. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think it's pretty cool though because she's giant. So like,
yeah.
because she's a Jotun, so she's a giant compared to everybody else, and it's like, damn.
Yep.
But sweet. Well,
Yeah.
until next time.
Bye.